If I was starting my locks today, I wouldn't do most of what I did the first time. Real talk. Not because I wasn't always wrong about, everything I did, but now I know like what actually matters. So in the beginning, didn't know what mattered. Now I know what matters big, big, big time. If you know, you know. Okay. Let's jump into this. Thank you guys for coming. Replay game, do your thing. If you're new here, let me know what city, state, town you're from. Welcome to Dreadlock Diaries. I want to talk about the choices I made early on in my lock journey that slowed things down. Not because I didn't care about what I was going through in my lock journey, but I didn't know what really mattered yet. So again, 5 years locked out here. Not sure how many years locked you are, but you learning something new every day. It is not that easy. You got to figure it out. Roll with the punches. If you caught my recent short videos and my short reels on YouTube, you already know all the challenges I've discussed. About what happened with the issues. Learning later than sooner. You heard some of that tea already. Moving right along. So thank you guys for chilling with me. Happy New Year, all that good stuff. 5 years lock anniversary approaching in about 4.5 months, maybe five. I'll have an anniversary popping out soon. June 1st, 2022. That's when it's popping out though. But if you know, you know. If you have locks, let me know in the comments. If you're in your second set of locks, let me know in the comments. If you do lock your stylist, let me know in the comments. I'll be interested to know, like, where you from, how long you've been in this journey, whether you have locks on your own or you on someone else's. So we'll definitely love to hear about that. But no pressure at all. Replay games, do your thing. It's all love here in these streets. But just wanted to pop in with this live message for y'all to let y'all know I am not a ghost. But jumping right into it, I'm gonna jump into the choices that slow my lock growth, and what I do differently now. So 5 years later, there's so many things I would do differently. Um, you just don't know. You have the best intentions, and sometimes things just go wrong, and you have the very best intentions, and you just cannot help what happens. But if you don't quit, you be consistent, and stay focused, and you don't hang in there, it'll all work out for you. It'll definitely all work out for you. So, keep that motivation, keep that, keep them goals, keep the morals up, don't be deterred. Don't be deterred at all about anything or anybody. But I'm feeling like I'm ready to jump into the first thing of my story for tonight. So I have a few stories I want to share with you guys tonight that leading me up to the choices that stole my life and what I do differently now. And you guys can jump in if you have any comments, tea, or experiences of your own that made you feel the way you feel. Like, you guys can definitely do that. So I'm here for all of that. And big shout out to the chat. Shout out to everybody in the chat. Thank you guys for coming through. Happy weekend. Happy Saturday. It's been a long time. Thank you guys for showing love. Please do me a favor, share my video if you can. So jumping into the first one. Topic number one. Again, bring this back full circle. We're talking about the choices that slow my lock growth and what I do differently now. Now that I'm on year 5, approaching year 6, there's so much more now that I know that I didn't know year 1. I didn't know year 2. I didn't know year 3. I didn't know year 4. And even in year 5, I'm still learning things. For example, I'm still learning, there's a locksmith technique that can make me retwist my hair faster. Just learned that like last year, maybe like 6 months ago. So still learning everything. Just because I'm 5 years live doesn't mean I know everything. So it's all love. Things happen out here in these streets, and again, I'm still committed. I still have my locks. They're still growing. I haven't cut them. I haven't shaved them off. I haven't pulled them out. I still got my locks, so that's a great thing. That means I'm consistent on the journey. I'm not going to just get insecure and quit right now. Like, I'm here. I am focused, and I'm here to do the doggone thing. And I'm not going to let naysayers persuade me. But I'm gonna keep it real at the same time. And while I'm out here keeping it real at the same time, I'm gonna let y'all know I made mistakes. And I talked about those mistakes in my short videos and my live videos recently, and my reels, so you guys know about the mistakes, and I've always been transparent. But shout out to the chat. Hello, Cynical. Hello, Irby. Hello, 18th Flutter. Thank you guys for pulling up on me. I really appreciate you guys. Happy weekend. So I'm gonna jump to the first topic of tonight. I have a full crew here. Shout out to my day one crew in the chat. Thank you guys for representing, showing love. And I'm ready to jump to my first topic of the night. So my first topic of the night is the first thing I want to discuss again. As far as if I could do everything differently, what would I do differently? So what I would do differently, if I could do it all over again, is this time around I wouldn't rush in the right way. Now, when I say I wouldn't rush in the right way, I feel like I was rushing and thirsty and thirst trapping and praying every morning and every afternoon, every evening that my life would just grow overnight. They would be perfect. They would do the darn on thing. I wouldn't have to put that much tender love and care and affection into it. They would just do the doggone thing. I would skip past the ugly phase. I would skip past the teenage phase. I would skip past all those phases to get to now. And I wanted perfection. I didn't want to deal with, the fuzzy stage. I didn't want to deal with the budding phase. I didn't want to deal with the unruly phase. I wanted to skip a lot of phases. I wanted to rush through the process, and I wanted perfection. I wanted every time for me to step outside that my hair looked perfect every single time. And I wasn't totally confident in the journey. Better yet said, like I felt if my hair didn't look a certain way, I shouldn't be outside. And I didn't know how to cover it up at first and find all the ways to make it look cute. I didn't know how to do all that at first. So that's number one. That stressed me the heck out because I was focusing on perfection versus just enjoying the journey and just loving on my hair. That's number one. Um, and with that, you get in your head, you start overthinking, comparing yourself. And again, we've been there, done that. You guys know about how that situation can be. We don't want to do those things. But yeah, I'll admit it. I was rushing my entire journey. I wanted to look like this person, that one immediately. I didn't want to be patient at all. I was just rushing the journey the entire time to look like, someone who's more progressed than I am. So that's number one. Number two, opinions. If I was to start over again, I would not listen to all the opinions I've heard. I would do my own research, as I said recently in my last short videos, in my last live videos. I feel like I kind of let opinions of people, infiltrate my brain and get into my psyche and let me feel some kind of way about starting the journey. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for stopping by, Jose. I kind of let people get in my psyche, and with that, I kind of feel like, I began insecurities on my own, just seeing that, people said, this is going to happen if you do this, that's going to happen if you do that. Don't do this, don't do that. Be careful of this, be careful of that. It really became a overload of information to the point where I just felt overwhelmed and I felt like, you know what, I'm going to just start my journey. I'm going to stop asking questions and I'm going to see what's going to happen. Good, bad, and ugly. Which leads me to the next point, I let my discipline and my tunnel vision and my narrow scope of avoiding outside infiltrators tell me what to do, what not to do. That I focused on discipline versus transparency. And when I discuss discipline versus transparency, I mean I became so disciplined to get my hair locked, go through the journey, and focus. I forgot to notice, initially in the beginning, key red flags in the lock journey that were important that I didn't, think that much of it, until it was time to think something of it. So that discipline is an example of that discipline is like, okay, I'm gonna keep getting my hair washed and retwisted and I'm gonna keep doing what I'm gonna do and I'm gonna not look at things that don't look right, that I see don't look right and I have a question about that I'm not asking about. Like I wasn't being fully transparent. I was just seeing what I wanted to see, so that's what I mean about that part, discipline versus transparency. I'm gonna continue my routine and I'm gonna ignore the transparent things I see in front of me on my locks that are questionable, but I'm not questioning yet because I'm gonna just see where this goes. Fair exchange and robbery, So that was an issue because it pretty much means that I ignored red flags and signs earlier on that I just didn't want to talk about and I should have talked about, but I didn't talk about. And at the end, I paid the price. We all paid the price, but we don't, do we supposed to do. So that's that. So are you able to relate to that? Have you experienced that? Have you been through that? Do you know someone who's, been in that challenge? Let me know. I feel like sometimes we all can be ignorant and naive in situations where someone's trying to teach us something, but it may not come off the right way, so we don't gravitate towards it. And we may self-sabotage ourselves at the same note because we don't do that. That happens to the best of us. It's not fun, it's not cool, but when it happens, like, oh, I made a mistake. I messed up. I should have listened. now I should do things differently. What I would do differently, you don't know until you go through it. And once you go through it, then you know, okay, I would do this differently, and that differently, and this differently, and that differently. So if for any reason I had to start all over from day one, there are so many different things I would do different. And tonight's live stream, that's what we're talking about. We're talking about all the things I would possibly do different if I had to start my life all over again. Although I'm 5 years in the game, I've learned a lot in the later years versus the initial years, and it's a real big factor. Enough factors to say, okay, I know better this time around. I would definitely not do this, do that, etc., etc., etc. And I'm gonna cover all of that tonight. But I'm only hitting you guys with three main topics. I don't want this to be information overload where it's like, I don't know the hell she was saying, but I was there. But again, happy New Year's, guys. Shout out to the chat. Thank you guys for replay game. You're gonna be here later. Do your thing. Make sure you share, like this video. Thank you guys for all that good stuff. But moving along, again, feel free to leave a comment. If you feel you can relate, although you may not have lost, if you made mistakes in life just in general and you admitted to those mistakes and you changed, you did better, like throw a comment, here. Let me know what those mistakes were. You can be vague, you don't have to tell all the tea. But thank you, Jose, for shouting that out too. And thank you for sharing my live stream as well. I really appreciate that. Um, Mistakes teach us lessons. Lessons make us learn. And when we're learning, we're growing, and we're not being, hard to say I know everything and no one can teach me anything. So that's the whole goal to like, learning from your mistakes and learning from lessons and not making the same mistakes over and over and over again. That's really, really important out here. But I'm a Taurus, I'm stubborn, I'm a bull, and I've made some mistakes, and those mistakes have led me to other things that I didn't think about until 4 or 5 years later. And sometimes you just can't unsee something, you can't undo anything, and it's one of those situations where I kind of can't really undo it. But moving on, topic number two. If I could start this all over again, I'll respect my hair limits. So what do I mean when I say respect my hair limits? I want to keep it transparent and funky with everybody. When I started my life journey in 2020, I was loose natural, but I still had processed hair from getting decades of perms, relaxers, high stress, high tension hair. And with all of that, I didn't have the strongest strands. I didn't have the strongest hair. I had heat damage. Um, I had, relaxer damage. I had thinning edges, I had different textures throughout my hair. And it's one of the reasons why I led me to the life journey, because I heard on the life journey your hair is at its strongest state, its thickest, state. It can go through just about anything and, not break and be resilient. And it's one of the things we say, okay, I should join a life journey because number one, I want to do my hair. Number two, it seems like you just get up and go. Number three is trending. And number four, so on and so on and so on and so on. There were like so many reasons for me to join a life journey. So I'm like, you know what? I think I may want to dip and dab and possibly be on a life journey at some point. I never know. But moving on to respecting my hair limits, I feel like I didn't treat and give my hair the, as my mom would say, tender love and affection it needed. I was dealing with really stressed out hair that wasn't at its healthiest state. I was trying to make it healthy, but it wasn't all the way at the healthiest state. And because of it not being in its most healthiest state, I feel like, I kind of self sabotage my hair by not training my hair prior to getting my locks on what they will be getting themselves into. So let's just give it, a flip side. Young boys may like the hairstyle where they have waves. If you guys don't know what waves are, they're like really deep curls in the forefront and side front, sometimes the back of a male's head. And they get waves from putting grease on their hair. They brush it a lot of water in it. They put a do-rag on their hair or like a scarf on their hair. And young boys for the last 2 or 3 decades have been doing that to have this, I have good Indian hair in my family, or I have water wavy hair, or my hair is not nappy. And they train their hair by using a do rag, a brush, water, and different kinds of greases or gels or puddings to train the hair to grow and come in a certain way. Anyone can train their hair. Just like dreadlocks, you train your hair to become locks by starting them off. You can train your hair. I didn't train my hair from the very beginning to be prepared for locks. My hair was trained to grow out of the loose natural state of having years, decades of relaxers and perms and DIY chemicals and bleaches in my hair. It wasn't at its healthiest state to take on this transition of a whole new hairstyle. But many people go through that. Many people don't train their hair. Many people don't prepare their hair for the next style. So it's not unusual. It's not unnormal, but it's a side effect that you can experience if you don't. That when your hair does lock, the same damage you saw before the locks will appear in your locks. So if you had bald spots in the front, there will be bald spots in your locks. If you had thin pieces on the side of your hair before your locks will grow with thin pieces on the side. If you had thick hair in the back before your locks, you're gonna have thick locks in the back. So whatever you started with, whatever the foundation was, whatever the structure was, whatever the root was, is gonna come over into that lock journey with you. Now, for me, I did talk to my loctician. I did ask questions, and she did give me options, as you guys saw in my recent short videos. And she definitely told me, some people do big chops. They do big chops to get the strongest mane they can work with, the thickest grade and texture they can work with. Therefore, when their hair locks, they're not carrying on the damage of the weak ends of whatever their hair was prior to that. Now, for me, I was super insecure. You guys know me from Wine and FaceTime, you know about my insecurities. I did not think I could pull off that. Did not. So I did not go there. But again, my intuition, made me wonder, can I pull this off? Can I do this? Is this realistic? Will this work? Is that right? Should my hair be looking like this? Should my hair be this texture and this length, or this silkiness in this section or that section? I wasn't really sure. I only asked questions at the last minute. I didn't ask all the questions in the very beginning. And that's the sucky part. I didn't ask all the right questions initially. But moving on to the early warning signs. I saw the early warning signs, and the early warning signs were locks that looked too thin, or didn't look too full, or didn't, properly lock up right away, or didn't look, like they had a lot of buds in them, or just didn't look like the texture of hair that I remember having prior. Before my lock hair, I had 4C hair, very thick, very coarse in some ways. I didn't really have a nice curl pattern where I had like a nice wavy Hispanic, Dominican, Puerto Rican, Latina kind of curl. I didn't have that curl at all. It was very thick, very coarse, very standing up all over the place. That was my hair texture. If I wanted that look, I had to put a lot of product in to get that look. I say all that to say that my hair wasn't in its strongest strength. It was limp, had less body, didn't have a lot of texture to it from decades and decades of perms. From the 1990s to the early 2000s, I wore perms heavy. From Revlon to Cremination, Dudley's, all of that, I was a perm girl. I was a doobie girl with the bobby pins, taking them out. That was my thing. I was in Dominican for a good 15 to 20 years of my life. Getting my hair hot comb, blown, flat iron, all of that for years. With the bangs, with the layers, that was the thing. And all those years of the heat and all that, process definitely took a toll on my hair. But I never thought I'd be natural, so I never thought nothing of it. Never thought to worry about it. But again, moving forward, the early signs of the damage in their hair was already seeing, some locks that were super skinny, that were super fragile, that were super thin, that were really tight, that were really, delicate, that didn't look strong and thick and full as the other ones. Those were the signs. I'm like, oh, okay, well, I'm not going to worry about that. My hair was kind of thin in that area before the beginning, so I'm not going to worry about that. But I should have worried, because those were the times where I could have did things about them that I didn't do anything about. So that was definitely something to worry about, and I didn't worry about it. But again, that's why I'm doing this live here. So again, if you're new here, you're just popping back into nice lives about the choices that slow my lock growth and what I would do differently now. So I talked about 2 different topics already. The first topic I talked about pretty much was, I wouldn't rush the process this time. I would enjoy every single moment and step of the process to make sure that I loved and cared and, got lots of pictures and videos and remembered and, embrace those moments. The next thing I said was I would respect my hair, respect the limits and boundaries to what it can do. So if it was damaged, I would have treated it prior to get it to this healthier state, to get it to where it could take on locks. I wouldn't just jump out the window and just jump into locks. I would have trained it to get ready to deal with this brand new hairstyle that was different from what I have been through from the last 20 to 25 years. Now, topic number 3. I would have asked better questions. I feel like I asked very shallow questions before my lock journey. I asked the questions that showed I was insecure and unsure about getting locks, but thought I wanted locks, so I just wanted to go for the gusto. I didn't ask about, the side effects or the pros and cons to what will happen if I don't do the big chop and I just jump into the locks. Now when I did ask it, it was already too late. I was already at the stage of I had my grid, I had my baby locks in. So I didn't ask prior to it. I asked too late. And when I finally learned is, if I would have done the big chop, or if I would have trained my hair to be prepared and ready for this new hair texture and style, I would have had a stronger chance and a higher percentage rate of possibly not going through things I went through. And what are some of those things I went through? I went through breakage. I went through different textures. I went through having hair shed. I went through, locks really just falling, in mid style of me doing a hairstyle on my head. I've been through those things and I didn't know, okay, is this just from bleaching color and dye or just because of something else? Like I really, really wasn't 100% sure. And I mean, feel like, okay, it's definitely that. But again, talking to your stylist and your loctician, I learned that, what our foundation is comes with us. So if you're coming with weak hair, if you're coming with damaged hair, if you're coming with stressed hair, if you're coming with thin hair, that is what you're going to get into your locks. So that's why people do the big chop to start with the strongest strands and tresses and mane of hair they have. Because at that point, there's a less chance that they'll go through the things that I went through. Now, granted, people still go through these things and they have strong locks. They don't do a big chop. They have great texture, great grade of hair. Not trying to be stereotypical, but depending on your background, your hair may just be super thick, super strong. You can do anything to it and nothing happens. That's not everybody, but for some people, they can do all of those things. Um, but I'm not that person. But I say all that to say that what works for me may not work for someone else, and we all have different journeys. So it's really hit and miss. You got to go through your own experience to know what your hair limit is, what your hair can tolerate, and be aware and woke to say, I messed up. I didn't do that right. I should have did this. I should have did that. But I did. But I didn't. Or I did. Those things are so important, and you don't know until you don't know. Next thing up, I want to discuss, is upon asking better questions, I feel like, I would have focused more on guidance versus validation. So my journey in the beginning was all about, validating me to feel good about me in a specific space to get the journey popping. I felt that, again, my face shape, my face structure, my head, my forehead, insecurities, I felt like there were things I couldn't kind of do because internally I didn't feel beautiful. And I felt like it was going to be hard to pull off because I know about the shrinkage in the beginning. No matter if you started with a long period, you're going to have a shrinkage phase where your head be really, really tiny. I didn't think I could pull that off. I didn't think I was pretty enough or confident to pull that off. So I was looking for a validation, ways to say, okay, I'm gonna be cute. I need to start as a way I'm gonna be cute. I need to do it in a way where I'm gonna look good. Like I kept making excuses for I gotta look good, I gotta look pretty, I gotta, like, I gotta be able to deal with it, and that was corny, that was weak, that was lame of me. But being transparent, that was how I was thinking. That was the insecurity within me. On the Afro journey or the loose natural journey, it was a bit different because all the girls had afros, or all the girls were trying to experience afro, all the girls were trying to do twist outs and braid outs and mohawks and faux hawks. But the live journey, I didn't have a lot of friends to talk to say, hey girl, well, how's this part of the journey? I know a lot of men going through it, but I wasn't trying to be in men DMs and asking men questions all day, all night about every little aspect of their life journey. Like I wasn't trying to do that. I didn't want, anyone to take my genuine curiosity for something more than what it was. And so I strayed away from like, asking men about their life unless I really personally knew them. If I didn't, I just stayed away from doing that. But I look for validation reasons from people to say, okay, you should do it, or validation reasons for myself to say, okay, now you can do it. So I started my life journey, when my head was just touching my shoulders. I'm like, okay, I can start my life journey now because now I'm pretty enough to do it. Now I'm confident enough to do it because I have some hang time. That was so superficial, but being honest with you, that really what it was. Like that really 100% what it was. Like I was afraid to start it before the length was not lengthened. I needed some shake. I needed something to start with. I couldn't do it. Honestly speaking, I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. Um, moving along. Something I would have another question I would have asked. That was better. That or no something I would do different. As far as asking questions. I would have probably stopped asking everyone I came across. If I met someone in the street, if I met someone on the train, at work, in passing, I was all in their business, asking 1,001 questions like I was a reporter, like and taking notes too. Like I think I put myself into information overload. I put myself into okay, you're doing too much now. But I was just so curious, so intrigued and interested in all the information I can get, but not once did I think about just going online. I feel like me asking a person in the flesh was better than going online and hear information about from someone who I didn't know that could have been a bot. So for me, looking back at the time, I thought me asking real people in real time was better information to deal with versus going to Reddit or going to YouTube or going to Google or Pinterest. I feel like having a real person in my face who I can have a conversation with back and forth is better than me going online and taking screenshots or printing out information. Like that's how I thought at the time, but that's that closed-minded attitude. I talked a lot this week about my closed-mindedness, my ego, my insecurities, my worries, the results and problems from thinking so silly and not proper. I talked so much about that, so that was much. Um, Another thing I would have asked too, is what are the short term and long term effects of starting your lock journey and having damaged hair versus having healthy hair. I feel like if I would have asked those questions, it would have been a no brainer to me to either, even if I didn't do the big chop, was train and treat my hair to get it to its most healthiest, strongest state. And then I probably would have, started the journey and felt like, okay, I can do this. I can do the journey now. But I didn't do that because I didn't know any better. I ignored the signs, I ignored the flags, um, and I was an amateur, and I'm still an amateur. 5 years locked is nothing to people that are 10 years locked, 15 years locked, 20 years locked, born with locks. Who can do locks. Who have locks. There's no comparison or no wager. But I always say, we're not supposed to compare ourselves to people with locks, but that's just really what it is. And I just made the wrong decisions. And now I'm here, trying to make better decisions, trying to make sure that, I'm not repeating the same cycle over and over and over and over again. One thing I didn't mention tonight that I wish I did mention, that would have did differently is, I feel like I wish I could have slowed down on my journey at some point and just, froze time and just stayed in the parts of the phases that I really loved the most because those phases went so fast. And I didn't appreciate them enough. I just sped through, like, sped through, and I just wanted instantaneous results. And looking back now, I didn't appreciate every phase. And I wish I could get some of those phases back, some of those parts of the journey back, which is why, I talk so much about, flashbacks and throwback Thursdays because it's so cool and so cute and so exciting to see those old pictures because I almost feel like I remember those phases, but like that's not even me. Like that's not even me anymore. Like look how far I've come, but it got me here. It got me here to the point where I'm still discussing, trials, tribulations, mistakes, errors, things of that nature, and I'm still loving it. The advice I would give to anybody who is thinking about starting a life journey, the advice I would give to anyone who is on a life journey and they're starting their own here is, just be consistent, try to do better. We all make mistakes, as Jose said, and everyone else knows. But when you learn better and do better, and you start applying that, that's the whole key. And our mind is so dangerous. Our mind have us tripping and tweaking. So sometimes your mind gets in the way and it gets you to where you don't want to be too fast, too soon, and then you just self sabotage. I've done enough self sabotaging in my life to know what that's about. So definitely stay clear away from that. Like don't make those mistakes. Um, and I think you'll be alright. But for any reason I can do this again, those three things, I would definitely do. I would respect my hair limits. I respect knowing, what my hair can handle, what it can't handle. Shout out to Sunkiss. Hey Taurine, how are you, beautiful? I respect my hair limits. I wouldn't rush, the journey and the process. And I would ask better questions. I think I asked very naive, shallow questions, and it sabotaged and backfired at the end of the day because when I got to weak areas of my life journey that I couldn't go back and just immediately fix and change, I suffered. So don't make the choices I made. Make smarter choices than me. Do your research. Don't try to breeze through the entire process and journey of it. Enjoy it. It's such a beautiful thing. Definitely enjoy it. Another thing I want to say too is lots of pictures, lots of photos. It matters. Looking back on the journey, like wow, that was me. Like that was me. Yeah, that was you. That was the path. That was the journey, and you just know better. You learn better. You do better. So it gets better with time and grace. And have grace with yourself. Because this is a hard life for me to film tonight. I was so worried and insecure about people wanting to jump in my comments and say, "What is she talking about? Her hair is growing so gracefully. Her hair is, really pretty, or she's had these different colors that look nice, or she's had these different hairstyles that look nice." What the hell is she talking about? The mistakes she's made. She never thought about mistakes before. Well, it is what it is. Sometimes we keep something to the chest. We don't tell everybody. And sometimes we just try to do our best to hide our insecurities. And sometimes, we fake it till we make it. And sometimes, we put on our best faces. The best colors, the best outfits to disguise and hide the things we don't want to talk about. We're insecure about. And again, I'm here to continue to be transparent because me not being transparent means, this is all for nothing. And again, we make mistakes. But I'm happy to be here and not making the same mistakes, learning from my lessons, trying new things, doing new things that will help me, get better with my hair care routine, my styling, my products, just, loving it more too, like not just about styling and hair care, but just, loving them as they are, them not always being neat, them not being always super pretty to the parts, the fuzzy moments, the bushy moments, the moments where it's not cooperating, doing what he wants to do. Like loving those moments too, because those moments are so cute. I made a video a few weeks ago, talking about fuzzy hair and unmangled hair just as beautiful as night clean, retwisted fresh hair. It's true. It really is. We have to get out of this conceptualized perception that only neat locks are beautiful. It's not just about neat locks. Since the locks are beautiful, wigs can be beautiful. Freeform can be beautiful. Clean, neat men's ones like mine, different sizes can be beautiful. Is not a certain look we're going for necessarily that says you have to, wear your hair like this. You may not like my locks. I may not like other people's locks. But it's not about what we like; it's what we're comfortable with. But that's my truth. That's definitely my truth. So again, take this video, this live stream, as not a lesson of law, but some research or some advice to things you should not do before you get your locks. If you're thinking about getting locks, and if you already have your locks and you've seen these little signs, pay attention. Don't get like me to the point where you're thinking about the shoulda, coulda, wouldas. Don't do that. That will definitely I think hurt you more in the end than anything else. So just a recap, my top three. Next time around, if I ever did it, if I lost locks, or I had an accident where I have to cut out locks and have to start again, I wouldn't rush. I would take my time every second, every minute, every hour, every retwist, every wash. I would take my time. I wouldn't worry about being perfect. I wouldn't let the opinions of other people, mentally sway me. I wouldn't do that. And I wouldn't focus on discipline. I was focused on transparency. Next time around, if I see my hair looking a certain way it shouldn't look, I'll pay attention to that right away. Meaning, lots of hot oil treatments, lots of conditioners, lots of less stressful hairstyles. Lots of times let it just freely do it at once with no stress into it. You know, Next thing on respecting my hair limits, knowing the textures, the coils, the grade, and the way my hair is. I will respect and know that what it can do and what it cannot do. I would not ignore the signs again. I would not. I will go with my intuition. I will let my intuition take me, and I will go with that. I wouldn't jump out the window getting crazy. Now, I will pay attention to early signs and see how can I fix this. What can I do better? What am I doing too much of? And again, I know everybody think got opinions. I know you got your opinions. I get it, but I've learned so much, and it's not all about the things that happen after the loss. It's definitely also what happened before the locks. But what happened before the locks, you cannot change. And again, asking better questions, not asking superficial questions, not asking silly questions, but questions that matter, about long term effects, short term effects, what can be fixed, what cannot be fixed, what will have to be done all over again. Those things matter, not thinking about just gossiping, but looking for guidance and mentorship, speaking to a stylist or a loctician or a professional or someone who's been doing it for years, that was important. And not letting so many thoughts and opinions just, flood my brain with confusion to the point where I was like, I'm gonna just do it, see what happens, like now looking back, that wasn't the best decision. It was a bad decision, because now I'm left with this uncertainty of what can I fix, what can I do, what can I not do. And again, you guys don't know, but I know because it's my hair, and I've been through it, and now when I see other people in the streets, I know what they're going through as well, So again, not thinking about ending anything, but just realizing the signs and being woke and aware and trying to do better and document my journey, because if I'm going through this, someone else going to probably go through this too. So it ain't gonna just be me, and that makes me feel like, okay, this conversation is meaningful. Like someone else needs to hear this. Like this is for someone else too. It's not just for me. And that's exciting, because again, I come to YouTube for support like everyone else does. I can't believe I made it 5 years in. Looking forward to year six. I'm so excited about that. Man, it just gets better. It just gets better. So shout out to everybody, who continues to show me love. Shout out to everybody who jumps in my comments, after the live, after the shorts, after the replay, and they comment and they give me feedback, or they want to say more and more and more about, things they've seen or things they notice. It's a journey out here, It's easy to begin for sure. But it definitely gets a little bit harder. And I want to just address some comments from the chat right now. I see a lot of comments here. Shout out to you guys. Happy weekend. I'm going to go to the top, make sure I didn't miss anything. Okay. Shout out to all of you guys. Miss you guys. Thank you guys for popping in, showing me love. Yes, Jose, we learn from our mistakes. We sure do. Love you guys all popping in here too. So I have a comment from Sunkiss. I think I want some, sis, but how do you start with twists? Are they more or less maintenance? So I started with twists. In the beginning, it's a lot of maintenance. After like year 1 or 2, is no maintenance at all. The early beginning is a lot of time and maintenance, but at the end, they're not. But yeah, I wish you the best, sister. I hope you pursue your life journey. I would love if you did. I'll definitely be down for that. I have a comment in the chat from Irby. He says, do you like short or long locks? What's your preference?" Thank you guys for the comments. I appreciate that, because I really got some tea for this now. Honestly speaking, Irby, I think I like my locks shorter. The longer they got, it has been a lot more to manage. Sometimes I don't feel like I'm really cleaning them really, really good from root to tip. Sometimes I just feel like it's too much weight on my neck and it's heavy to wash, in the showers. So it kind of does get overwhelming the longer they get, the longer you stay in the journey. It really, really does. Um, but yeah, Jose also said, I made many mistakes in my 63 years of life. Yeah, so have I. I'm 43 and I made a lot of mistakes as well too. But I'm not talk about them all here, but it'd probably be a great topic for your show, Jose, for the uncommon folk mistakes we've made throughout the years. That'd be great for your show. But about these lock mistakes, I just was very naive, self-centered, immature, uneducated, and some things have come back to bite me in the butt. Some things have not. But I want to just share with you guys to let you guys know, if you're going through this in real time, it's not just you. If you haven't gone through this, beware in case it does pop up on your end of the spectrum. And if neither one of these things has come across your journey at all at any time, any place, you're a lucky fellow or girl. You're so lucky. But I'm also wanting to push forward and just push transparency. I also want to push forward and just be authentic. I also want to push forward and let people know that if you're not on top of the hair care from day one and you want clean hair locks that are not freeform and that are not wicks, you're gonna have to be on top of it in the beginning, because how you treat your hair in the beginning of the journey is so important. You're gonna see those ending results in the future. So I'm gonna say it again for people in the back. how you treat your locks in the beginning of their journey and before your journey is how it's going to show up later on in the end. Letting you guys know that right now, like notes. Definitely take notes. And Sunkiss, wish you well. Ask me any questions you want. You already know I got you, girl. Yeah. So again, I was loose natural before this journey, still getting washed and sets, wearing braid out, twist outs, and all those other kind of Afro styles, and going to the Dominicans, going to the Puerto Ricans, back and forth. Did some colors, did some bleaches with my locks. This is like the third or fourth color you guys may have probably seen me with since then, and I don't regret anything though. As far as what I did with my locks, I don't regret anything because I wanted to have fun. I wanted to explore. I wanted to do my journey, live my life, not be scared to do stuff because what people told me, and I had fun with it. I miss my blonde locks so much, but I'm not going back to blonde no time soon anyway. Probably not next this year. I love the ombre color I had. I like the chocolate, the burgundy. Like I like the colors. I was never adventurous until now because my loose natural perm hair could have never taken these colors. Only locks would allow me to get these colors. I would have lost all my hair if I had a perm or loose natural hair and I did these colors. I'll be bald. But with locks, it can take it. It can eat it as long as you treat it and giving it 10, 11, and care and affection. That's what my mom always says. 10, 11, care and affection. But it's true though. Locks can withhold things, styles, and dyes and chemicals a lot more than I think other hairstyles can. I think with other hairstyles, it'll just completely like just break off, dust off, twist off. Now, again, there's a lot of different things I experienced. I'm not discussing everything. I'll definitely probably make another video to tell you more things I experienced. But I've definitely experienced more things than the three things just now. As far as what slowed my hair, there's physical things that slowed my hair. There's mental things that slowed my hair. Emotional things. All those things, really tied up into like a big old bow, and they all happen at different times. But yeah. But it's real stuff. Well, I'm happy to know you're not in no situation cynical. That's really good to know. Thank you. I really appreciate it. I really do like this burgundy. The burgundy is subtle. It's not too much. I don't gotta put on a pound of makeup to look presentable. Like I really appreciate that. I'm looking at some more comments in the chat. Yeah, we're talking about hair right now, but it definitely applies to everyday life. It's not just about locks. It's about personal development, relationships, family relationships, work situations. It applies to many different areas. It's not just a one directed kind of thing. It really is not. But I've been wanting to get this live out for the longest time, because again, I post a lot of short videos of the cute hair sways and flips and the outfits of the day and the cooking meals, but I really haven't been down for a sit down talk in a while just to talk ish about, what's really been going on, what lessons have I learned, what I've really been going through, and in a nice segment where, it can be uninterrupted, fully in on the conversation. 444 on your clock. Hey, I hear that. But let's go. Let's start that journey. Let's be better. Let's do better. Let's make better decisions. Let's not overthink. Let's not ask too many questions that backslide us. Let's pay attention to red flags. Let's pay attention to key signs. Let's pay attention to those intuitions. Let's pay attention to when we know things don't look right. We know things don't sound right. Like let's pay attention to all those things because it's for a reason. Some people may call it deja vu, same place, same time. Some people call it, a eerie feeling, Some people may, it's a spirit hitting them. People may call it many different things, But if you know, thank you guys so much for popping in with me, sharing the tea with me, sharing time with me, giving me your weekend energy. I don't know if you guys are watching me on your cell phone, y'all on a computer, y'all on the TV, but however y'all watching me tonight, it's so much love. Wanted to shout out, all the new subscribers. I've gotten maybe like 30 new subscribers like in the new year, and definitely trying to work on, better structured content. I hope this is a good video for you guys. Hope you guys got some knowledge from this video. Hope this was for somebody. I hope someone, took some tea giveaways from this. I hope this, just hit someone for the right moment at the right time for them to just say, I'm gonna start my life journey, or I'm gonna do better at this, or I'm gonna do better at that, or I'm gonna do this different, I'm gonna do that different. I hope this just is for somebody, because it's definitely for me. Although it's about me, this is definitely for me. But I'm excited to just give y'all this video. I really, really am. I'm a Taurus. I'm out here being vulnerable, sharing my experiences, my journey with you guys. It's been a while since I've done a long form video, and this one was really, really special to me because I wanted to give y'all the facts and the tea and the deets, and not make it sound superficial at all. So peace, y'all. Locs Diaries is here. I'm exiting soon. Let me know any video ideas you may want to hear about me or any conversations you're interested to know in the chat. Do me a favor, share my video, like, subscribe if you haven't yet. Replay games, do your thing. People in the clouds, get wild, pop out. Let me see y'all. But take care. Anything you guys want to let know about me, please just jump in the comments. Let me know. Have a happy weekend, 3-day weekend. Enjoy yourself, and that's all I got for y'all. So peace and love, or how do you say back in the day? Love, peace, and hair grease. I don't use grease in my hair no more, but thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for reflecting with me, and I'll be here again for another live show in about 1 week from now. And until then, bye guys. This one was for the books. I'll talk to you guys later.